Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Tamashii Nation's rock. It's the rock effect, which is kind of like just a bunch of rocks, which is maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, depending on what you want to do with your display. If you need rocks in your display, this might be the way to go. I don't know. It's a bunch of rocks. So there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about, honestly, but we're going to go through it. There are some definite good things about this, and there are some definite things that I think could be better. So we do have a little bit to talk about. So let's go ahead and get the rock off the stand and take a closer look. This rock stands in this capacity just about, I don't know, let's say 4.5 inches by 4 inches. It's just a ball of rock that's about 4 to 4.5 inches around, okay? But this is not the way most people are going to use it. In fact, I think it's a little weird that this is even an option because I just don't see it being utilized in this way. Now, they did mean for you to be able to do this. I mean, it's very obvious that the pegs on the bottom line up on purpose. So that is a thing you can do if you want to. I don't see why anybody would want a ball of rocks that doesn't really look like a ball of rocks. It just doesn't make sense to me. So we're going to just ignore that option because it's not that useful. Now what we are going to do before we talk about anything else is talk about the paint and the sculpt. Now the sculpt on this is fine. You definitely have a very rock-like texture. Some spots have sharp edges, some are a little bit more worn down. Looks very much like broken rocks that have maybe been weathered, you know, erosion, that kind of thing. It looks all right sculpt-wise. Now paint-wise, I don't care for it. Now here's the thing. In some places it looks really good. Like, let's say if you just looked at this spot right here, you'd think that looks all right. But then if you come over here, you have super heavy shading and almost no shading up here. If you look at this part, it's just completely shaded through. There's so much more dark than light. And then right over here, it's mostly just light with no shading at all. So my thing is, if you're going to go with like the really heavy stylized shading up against the almost no shading and all, that's fine. Just make it uniform. Or if you're going to go way heavy shading everywhere, that's fine. Just make it uniform. You know, just stylistically, it needs to be more consistent. As you look at it from the top, you can see certain things stand out. Is it a total deal breaker? Probably not for most people, especially since you may not be wanting to use it like this, in these two chunks. It's really going to come down to what you want to use it for. If you think if it has the utility that warrants the purchase. And the cool thing is, if you don't like that some of the parts are shaded differently, it's all removable. And that's the cool thing about this. And I think that's the best thing about this, is it does provide a lot of utility in the sense that you have so many more options than maybe in previous effect packs. So I'll just go ahead and look at this one first. And I want to point out, lots of these little pieces can come right off. And those expose a peg hole for your flight stands, for your Act 4, Act 5, whatever stands you want to use, the Tamashii stands. So all of these little spots that you see that look like they're different, they come right off, and then you can peg things into that. There's one right here too. So it's cool that you get two big lumps, I think, because the two big lumps would be good for posing any two figures up against each other, and it's a little bit nicer than just using a regular display stand. So that's a cool thing. But then there's more. Another cool thing is, these main chunks come off too. So you can remove these pegs, and then you can use those holes for flight stands if you want to. Or these holes, or you can connect them with flight stands to make it look like the rocks are levitating from like a force or a shockwave, or anything you really want to do, you can do. These give you a lot of options. You get one big piece and then two smaller but still big pieces with each one, and then you also get the little chunks that come with it, which it's going to be a little harder to pose these little guys floating around because they don't have the peg holes in them. They only have the pegs, but you can still separate all the big chunks out and make a pretty cool display if you wanted to. The thing that just really bothers me about it is the lack of uniform paint. I think that's a big deal. I don't know if it's a deal breaker. It's really going to come down to what you like or what you don't like. But I do like the fact that you have all of these different pieces to create different options. I think it would have been nice if they included, this isn't a very expensive to produce type of thing, so it would have been nice if they included the stand, or at least one of them. But I guess that's not absolutely necessary. And if you have trouble removing these pegs from the pieces that are held together with those pegs, it does give you like a little wrench tool. It's really just like a little prior piece. The thing is, it's kind of flexible, and it didn't really help me too much. I had better luck with my fingers. But it is included, and if you're curious about the size, here's Rashid, standard SH Figure Arts size figure, standing amongst the rocks. You can see it doesn't look bad. The stylistic shading of the rocks is fine, I think, for an action figure because they're made out of plastic and they're all stylized to some extent anyway. It's just really, it just comes down to that uniformity issue, especially once you take them apart and you have these parts that are very heavily shaded black, and it just looks very strange. So if you want to use them in chunks, it's going to be hard to make it look good. But you do have options. So I'm going to say, yeah, I recommend it, but you really need to have a good idea of what you want to do with them. There it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have new videos up every single day, almost, kind of, sort of. Not so much lately, but normally we do. We have for the last 3 years, but haven't for the last couple of weeks. And we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, action figures, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for all that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And in the meantime, keep collecting.